Yes, greetings and welcome everyone. So, this is another video in the series of R&R, researching and revealing practically applicable wisdom, knowledge, and much more, particularly related to, directly having to do with the cycles of life. And I'm your host, Ras Ariel Tafari, welcoming you all. What we're actually busy with is this. It is fine-tuning our entire operation so that it will all work perfectly. So, in other words, what I'm busy with is coordinating my actions in both personal and business life, so-called, at the right times, seeking to accomplish everything, generally speaking, as perfectly and successfully as possible. Now, this may sound complex to you, dear viewers, yet it's actually very simple. Everything in life is cyclical, and we have a number of different life cycles, approximately 7 different ones, that we are in at any given point in time, basically speaking. Although there is an overlapping of the life cycles too into each other at certain points, particularly the annual life cycle periods, whereof there are 7 that you have every year, starting on your birthday, 7 annual life cycle periods that are each 52 days long. So, where should we begin? This is important information. Hopefully it's as simple to process as possible. There's a lot to cover here, and I'm seeking to put it out there as easily as possible and as accurately as possible so that you too can benefit from this knowledge. So what I'm saying is that, see, I have decisions to make right now. I have decisions to make every day. And these determine, the quality of life that I have in the future. So you start to get the picture that you have to coordinate what you're doing, where you're going to send an application, where you might actually be quote unquote employed correctly. You have to do the right things at the right times. Now, if you do this, it's interesting, everything works basically magically. And in any case, though, somehow everything generally does tend to work out, year by year, on and on and on, somehow, so that it's basically pretty good. And you see that in retrospect. So your best effort that you can put in to live in harmony with the cycles of life and actually make the right decisions, basically coordinate everything, time everything right, so that it will bear good fruit, right? There's varying degrees of perfection involved. In other words, you learn how to coordinate things better and better every year. Look at what happened last year. Okay, in that cycle, in the same cycle, that we're in this year, last year, that happened at that time. So you get more and more accurate with your life and how you live in harmony with the cycles of life. Now, I'd like to share with you one particular thing that I'm investigating today right now. And it is something that can make a tremendous difference in the accuracy and the success level of your overall operation. The first thing I'm still investigating is the following subject: determining the actual original real date of my quote-unquote birthday this year. Because, I'm going to talk about this for a second, is that, look, what you have going on is, let's say you're 36 years old, and your birthday was on the 10th of August 1988. Okay, so now 36 years ago, your birthday was at a particular time that was identifiable on the Gregorian calendar at that time. Okay? And it's a definite time, and this same time reoccurs every year. No matter how many years in the future, it's always going to be at the same time again the next year, basically, because of the linear progression of time. But yet there is one serious problem, though. It's a small one, and it can be fixed. There's a problem, though. They have a thing called leap years. So now what can happen is this. Imagine now, 36 years later, you think that because of how the Gregorian calendar reads this year, you look at your calendar and it says, oh, 10th of August, 2025, oh, that's my birthday. But wait a second, it isn't actually accurate. That is not the time this year when your birthday really actually happened 36 years ago. And the reason why is because of leap years, or actually because of the inaccuracy of the calendar system that is used. Yet we have to remember our objective is to identify the exact time and date this year, no matter how many years ago you were born, when it actually is your birthday. So the problem is if your birthday was 30 years ago on the 1st of July and it's 2025 now and it's the 1st of July, it will look like it's actually your birthday, yet it actually isn't. Because there have been leap years since the year when you were born, there have been leap years where they've added a day to the calendar every leap year. And so for the amount of leap years since your birthday, it's as if the date of your birthday this year is reading inaccurately or artificially based on how many days have been added to the calendar based on how many leap years there have been since your birthday. So what I started to... Now, if anyone out there is watching this who's actually interested in what I'm saying, it's actually very valuable and you can really benefit from this. And I have a special request. Someone out there, please double check what I am about to present to make sure that it's accurate and send me a message about this so that I'm sure that I'm calculating things correctly, because I have gone to great length to figure out what I'm saying is true. So in my case, there have been 10 leap years since my birthday. So now in 2025, my birthday is going to be on a particular date. And how do I know that that is accurate or not? Well, it seems to be the case that since there were 10 leap years since my birthday, the apparent date of my birthday this year in 2025, 36 years later, right, where there have been 10 leap years since my original birthday, and thus 10 days have been added to the calendar since then. The reading of my birthday this year is actually 10 days later than it actually really is. Is this theory correct? And could some mathematician somewhere please double check what I'm saying and answer me? Please tell me if I'm correct with that calculation. I think that I am. So what I'm saying is, you were born on the 1st of July, 1986, for example, and now it's 2025. You check how many leap years there have been since your birthday, originally in 1986, and if it's, however many leap years it is, every leap year there's been a day added to the calendar. And so in this year, then how many ever leap years there have been since your original birth date, up to this year, there have been that amount of days added to the date of your birthday this year, and it actually is delayed by however many days have been added to the calendar based on how many leap years there have been since your original birth date. I think that I'm correct with this because I thought about it systematically. You have a leap year and 1 day added to the calendar. So if you have two of those, if your birthday is on 1 September 2000, and since 2000 there have been however many leap years, you have to actually subtract the amount of days that there were leap years since your original birth date this year on the calendar to get your accurate birth date, because it's been bumped ahead artificially by every leap year. There's been a day added to the calendar, and so the original date actually would have been gradually bumped forward artificially by 1 day because they add a year to the calendar every leap year. So it's like my birthday is 10 September 1988, and now it's 2025. On 10th of September 2025, I have the apparent reading of my birthday, but that is not actually the time when my birthday was. In fact, it's 10 days later than it originally was. It would actually be on the 1st of September almost this year. In reality, in the linear, orderly progression of time. Now, somebody out there who's like a mathematician, maybe you can double check what I'm saying and perhaps send me a reply, because the reason why this is actually important is because you have to be able to accurately map out and navigate and identify your life cycles. And if you don't know the exact date of your birthday, say 30 years later, 40 years later, there can be up to 10, 12, or even more days of discrepancy. And so you'll be looking at the calendar, reading your birthday this year, but it could be a couple days later than it actually is. It could be indicated as being your birthday, but it's actually late. So this is just important so that we can identify exactly what life cycles we stand in, because they have a definite time units. So somebody out there probably will see this and perhaps hopefully comment or reply, because I have calculated this out now. I've determined that I have had 10 leap years since my original birthday, 10th of September 1988. So now, since I was born originally, there have been 10 leap years, and thus 10 days have been added to the calendar this year. So then what happens is, if my birthday reads 10th of September 2025 this year, that is not the actual real time when it would be. It would actually be on the 31st of August or on the 1st of September approximately, in the real actual linear progression of time. Some of you may think this is nitpicking, though it's extremely important, because guess what? You could be, look, if there's a 52-day annual life cycle period, whereof there are 7 each year, starting on your birthday, right? If you're in a 52-day life cycle period, and it takes about 3 days for one period to change into another completely, then 10 days can make a big difference, because if you think you're standing in the area A right now, but you're actually already in area B, then your navigation is off. So there's different ways to identify this. This is getting highly detailed now, though you should listen to this, because this is like really figuring out the truth in the most minute areas of human life, namely exactly mapping the life cycles, right? So one of the ways to determine this is to do proper calculation, like I'm seeking to, and I think I have. The other way, though, is to pay attention to how you actually sense the life cycles you're in, because you will feel what is described as what is going on in the different life cycles that you're in. You will also notice it. Some will be able to understand this in the following example, where around your first life cycle period, that's where you were born. So you feel really, really refreshed and strong, and just like you're newborn. This happens every year around in your first annual life cycle period, because that's the time within the linear progression of time when your life came to be. So you're totally alive. You feel so alive and just everything is working good for you. All the support in the universe is there. You feel this, you know this around right after your birthday. The problem is if you have a birthday at a particular time and time has been artificially jiggled either back or forth as per the readings of the calendar, then we got to identify the real actual times when we were born. And even if it's 100 years later, you got to know because the calendar is artificially being bumped around a little bit. Now, I actually double checked my theory though, and now I'm a little. Now I have questions because I looked up when was the summer solstice in 1988. It was like, I think it was the 21st of June. And then I looked up when is the summer solstice in 2025, and it was on the 20th of June. So this seems to indicate, though, that the adjustments that are made with the leap years keep the calendar actually approximately reading accurate time. But I observed something that led me to think that my theory that based on how many ever leap years there have been since your birthday and how many days have been added to the calendar every year based on every leap year there has been, that the date of your birthday gets artificially delayed so that it will read however many days later this year that there have been leap years since your original birthday. The reason why I say this is because my birthday was on the 10th of September. Yet around the 3rd or the 2nd of September, I started to sense and feel as if there was that original life boost of the birthday. So that made me investigate, and then I did check how many leap years there were, and I subtracted the amount of days from last year's reading of the calendar, my birthday, by about like 9 or 10 days or so. And it was right, and my feeling and my sensing of what life cycles I was in was accurate too. So this supports my theory here. Maybe I just have to go and talk to a mathematician personally about this. Somebody will know that, but I am fairly certain that what I have calculated is right. The reason why this is so important is because, like I said, you got definite beginnings and endings, and then approximately maximum time frames of maximum. Generally, if you're in one annual life cycle period of 52 days, right, this will end on day 52, and it will overlap. So the life cycle period you're in will overlap into the next one coming, and the next one coming is already overlapped into the one you're in right now. So to cover that sufficiently, you're supposed to use 3 days to wait for one life cycle period of 52 days to become fully established, to actually end, and the next one to become fully established. Same thing with the daily periods of the cycles of life of 3 hours, 25 minutes, so 142 to 508 is an F period. At 508, the F period doesn't just end at 508, bam, like a straight cutoff. It overlaps into the next one that starts at technically 508 and goes till 834. But there's this 10-minute space that you give room for an overlap for one period to fully end and another one to fully begin. Now, there is even more overlapping of the cycles that is going more minusculely. Like, all right, you're in cycle 1 is ending, right? And the other one is beginning. Well, there's more overlap that goes on that's even more minute. I've observed this over the years. I've had things happen sometimes in one annual life cycle period of 52 days that seemed like it was from the cycle before it, yet a tiny, tiny bit. And I've observed that there is, because remember, these cycles, they do overlap. In fact, yet it's very minuscule. So it could even be said that the overall cycle of life is like, It has cycles within it, and all of them do overlap somewhere. They do. Generally, though, things are structured into definitely identifiable units, but there are very minuscule overlappings of the life cycles that seem to go on throughout all cycles. That's actually obvious. Okay, right. Another subject today was paying attention to the lunar units and using them to your highest advantage. In other words, Dad always used to say, start something, wait till the new moon to start it on the new moon. Whether it's a new project, new employment, a new business venture, new relationship, whatever it is, he always used to say, wait till the new moon. It's like another couple days. Okay, wait till the new moon. Start it on the new moon. And then whatever thing it is that you're seeking, whatever good thing it is, it seems to be that he said that it would manifest on the full moon or right around the full moon or even a few days after the full moon. Whatever we've been sort of working toward, it would manifest. I've observed this, and I found it to actually be true. Seems like the moon is an indicator of, almost like a meter that indicates the level of what's going on here. Like, how should we say this? I observed that someone had passed away when the moon was emptying out, just before a new moon. I thought this would happen, and it happened. So it's like the moon is like showing it's like the meter that measures what's going on in Earth and human life activity. When it's full, there's a lot going on. When it's filling up to full, there's a lot, it's all increasing, and then it reaches its peak, and then it starts to empty out again. You can see this in nature. So smartest thing would be to start anything new on a new moon. And then the ultimate results and the increase of whatever started on the full moon seems to come started on the new moon, starts to come in, like the total increase is then somehow yielded in life, or the ultimate results or the maximum results sort of seems to manifest around the full moon. I've observed this to be true. So why is this relevant? Well, today it's the 26th of March. We have a new moon on the 29th at about 12 p.m. And I was just about to make some moves, send some applications, do this, do that. And then I remembered what my dad told me, and I thought about what he said about you should stop, wait, and wait till the new moon and then start it. Well, it seems to make sense because look, if the moon is still emptying out right now, even whether it's for 10 days or 2 days or even 14 days, because right, what is it? It reaches its peak and it takes a couple, 14 days or something to empty out again, right? I hope I'm right there. I can look it up, but generally, after a full moon, it takes, I think it's like 2 weeks, they call it, till it empties out, and then it's new. So it's almost like the time between the moon being full and then the time of the moon reaching, like it's emptying out and then becoming new. It's almost like what there is, it's more like things are being kind of emptied out rather than that things are being taken in and brought up and supported and headed towards a peak and an increase. And that actually seems to be the case, and it makes sense too. It is actually true. So now what you do is you go and you wait till the new moon, then you send an application, you go somewhere, you go for an interview, you drop off your documents, make a good impression, and gradually, and then technically though, at the latest, so you make all your new moves and things, you plant all these new things right after the new moon, right? Because it's a new clean slate where there's now a clean slate, and now there's an increase starting gradually till the moon is full. And it seems like at the latest, by the full moon, the next one you will have sort of harvested whatever it was that you were sowing, whether it was you sent an application to somewhere, you dropped something, you put seeds in the ground. It's like whatever it was that you sowed right after the new moon, because that's when the up cycle starts again. It's almost like the time that we put things in here in life determines what's going to come out. So if you put in an application right after the new moon, you're on a upward curve with that will lead to an increase technically. And then the ultimate results of that will somehow start to pan out around before the full moon or even perhaps after it. But then afterwards, it's a decreasing curve again. So it's like you'd have to actually pay attention to this, because why is this important? It can make the difference between either success or not. So if you found a place where, for example, you could become employed and it would be good, right? It would be, a successful business venture, a successful thing, right? And you put in the application at the wrong time, it could be that it's still on file for months and then they pull it up someday, like it's happened to me, and then you get employed at a certain time. But that also happens to be in a certain life cycle. So everything that actually happens in life, and that, moreover, that we make happen, is going to happen at a certain time when it's the life cycle period for that thing. Yet, what I'm saying is, if I have the choice right now to wait 3 days to put in an application somewhere, to present myself, and to hopefully become employed somewhere in order to, work and then, make money, and get richer and richer, then guess what? The timing is definitely decisive, because it's almost like you could put your poker chip in right now, and the game is in a way that it's decreasing and ending, and it's going to be done soon, and that's it. Or you could put your poker chip in when the game is on an upswing, and it's just going further, and it's going to expand, and things are going to happen, and you're going to probably win. So then it's like you can either time things right, or you can time them wrong. Now, even though that sounds very clear cut, still somehow or other things do tend to work out overall, even if, no matter how good you've timed things. Yet there are bigger wins that we can achieve if we do pay attention to these things and time things as good as possible. That equates living in harmony with the cycles of life as much as possible.